Are traditional definitions of ethical research practices changing?
I believe they absolutely are. Traditionally, or in conventional research, our ethical deliberations were sort of very human-based, so they were stuck to sort of what are the ways in which we make claims about the individual subject, which was entirely human. Now we have to understand the ethical, I think, in a relational way. So ethics don't precede the moment of methodological engagement. They grow out of the moment of inaction, of methodological inaction. So the whole notion of the ethical is now intersects and relational in particularly productive ways.
I think the way in which people, researchers understand ethics really has to do with their sort of epistemological and ontological kind of framework, the theoretical framework that they're approaching. And so because we've been using like a critical post-humanist or more than human understanding of ethics, for us we draw on a lot of work by, because we've been really focused on a critical post-human approach to ethics, we draw on scholars like Sarah Ahmed, who talks about an ethics of citational practices, Donna Haraway, who talks about situated knowledges, inheritances, accountability, and of course Rosie Bray-Dotty, who talks about sort of a feminist affirmative politics of ethics. So these are ethics that are about relationality. Because we're doing walking, we also have drawn on Stacey Alamo's notion of an ethics of place, because thinking about the actual situated location of where walking takes place. And here we also draw on Indigenous scholars like Vanessa Watt, who talks about the relationship of land and that importance to sort of knowledge making.
I'm not sure that they are, in terms of how much qualitative research with human subjects is conducted, but I think there's a rethinking that many are doing about ethics and what ethics means, and about a rethinking of the kind of very, I think Gilliman and Gillam talk about procedural ethics, as opposed to the procedural ethics feels very static in how universities, for example, are conceptualizing ethics and what that means in a very kind of, it's done in a very instrumentalized way. But I think the work that Gilliman and Gillam did, that was from back in the early 2000s, but a lot since then has been to rethink about ethics as being a process, ethics as being something that's happening all the time in all the relationships that are occurring within research. So I'm not sure that it is being I'm not sure on what impact that's having on the way in which institutions are thinking about their ethics processes, but certainly thinking ethically and working ethically and researching ethically is changing, I would say.